The war had ended in silence. The battlefield in space was filled with broken ships, scattered metal, and drifting shadows. Aaron, a human warrior, floated among the ruins in his damaged craft. He had survived the fight, but he did not know for how long. His oxygen was limited, his weapons were nearly gone, and the ship's systems blinked with red warnings. Still, he remained calm. He had seen worse before, and he was not ready to give up. As he guided the small craft through the wreckage, he noticed something unusual. A faint signal appeared on his screen. It was weak, almost gone, but it pulsed like a heartbeat. Aaron adjusted the scanners and followed it. He thought it might be a trap or a broken beacon, yet his instincts told him otherwise. He had always trusted his instincts, and they rarely failed him. After minutes of slow searching, he found the source. Among the twisted remains of a silver ship, a life pod was stuck. The pod was cracked, its lights flickering, and it looked as if it would break apart at any moment. Aaron maneuvered closer and forced open the damaged hatch. Inside, he saw her. She was unlike anyone he had seen before. Her skin was pale with a faint glow, her eyes closed, her body weak and trembling. She was clearly not human, but she was alive. Aaron's heart tightened. This was no enemy soldier, no threat. She looked fragile, like a fallen bird struggling to breathe. Aaron pulled her out of the pod and carried her into his craft. He laid her on the small medical bed, scanning her quickly with the limited tools he had. The screen confirmed what his eyes already told him. She was dying. Her blood levels were dropping, and her heart was barely holding on. Without help, she would not last long. Aaron frowned. His supplies were not meant for aliens. The ship's medical kit was built for human biology. Nothing inside could restore her kind. Yet as he looked at her pale face, he felt something stir inside him. He had seen warriors die on battlefields, but this was different. She was alone, helpless, and her life was slipping away. He could not let her fade while he still had breath in his own lungs. He searched through her pod, hoping for medicine or equipment that could help her, but there was nothing left. The fire of battle had destroyed everything she carried. His eyes went back to the medical scanner, where a single line flashed: critical blood loss. That was her true wound. Her body was shutting down because she had lost too much of what gave her life. Aaron knew the answer then. It was impossible, maybe even foolish, but it was the only chance she had. He had blood to give. Whether it would work, he did not know. Different species were not meant to share what flowed in their veins, yet sometimes survival required boldness. Aaron was not a man to sit idle while another life withered. He prepared the transfusion. His hands were steady as he connected the tubes, adjusting the machine to a level that would not drain him too quickly. The moment the line connected, he felt a strange chill. He watched as his blood moved into her body, mixing with hers. He waited, tense and uncertain. At first, nothing happened. Her chest rose and fell in weak breaths, her body still cold to the touch. Aaron sat beside her, watching closely, ready to stop if her body rejected it. But then, slowly, her breathing grew steadier. The color in her skin returned bit by bit. Her chest lifted with stronger breaths, and the trembling faded. Relief washed over him. Against reason, against everything he had learned, his blood was keeping her alive. Aaron allowed himself a rare smile. For now, she was safe. He leaned back in his seat, but he did not close his eyes. His mind was full of questions. Who was she? Why was she here? What had happened to her people? He did not know her story, but he knew one thing: she was not just another casualty of war. She was someone worth saving. Hours passed in the quiet hum of the ship. Aaron checked the readings again and again, making sure her body was stabilizing. She was still weak, still fragile, but her chances were better now. Finally, as he was adjusting the machine once more, he noticed her eyes flutter open. They were bright and deep, unlike human eyes. She looked around in confusion, then at him. For a moment, fear filled her gaze. She tried to move, but her body was too weak. Aaron raised his hand slowly, showing he meant no harm. "You are safe," he said in a calm voice. "I found you in the wreckage. You were dying, but I gave you my blood. You will live." She blinked, trying to understand his words. Her lips moved, and though her voice was faint, it carried meaning. "Why would you do that?" Aaron paused, then answered simply. "Because life is worth saving. No matter whose it is." Her eyes softened, and she let her head rest back on the pillow. A small sigh escaped her lips, a sound of relief. She closed her eyes again, but this time it was not from weakness. It was the rest of someone who felt safe, even if only for a moment. Aaron sat quietly beside her, watching over her as the stars outside drifted past. He did not know what awaited them beyond this silent battlefield, but he knew their paths had crossed for a reason. One act of kindness had tied their fates together. And whatever came next, he would face it with the same resolve that had carried him this far. Lyra opened her eyes slowly. The room inside Aaron's small ship was dimly lit by the faint glow of control panels and distant starlight. Her body felt different. She could feel strength returning, a steady warmth flowing through her veins. It was unlike anything she had experienced before. She sat up carefully, testing her limbs. Each movement was slow but smooth, and she realized she was no longer on the edge of death. Aaron was nearby, monitoring her vitals on the screen. When he saw her sitting up, he breathed a quiet sigh of relief. He had not expected her to recover so quickly. "You are awake," he said calmly, though there was a hint of surprise in his voice. "How are you feeling?" Lyra studied him. His uniform was scratched and burned from the battle, his face streaked with dirt and sweat, but his eyes were steady and calm. He had saved her life, yet he looked more concerned about her well-being than his own. She could not find the right words at first. Finally, she whispered, "Alive." "Yes," Aaron said simply. "You are alive because I acted. You were dying, and there was no time to wait for anything else." Lyra's mind raced. She had heard of humans, but she had never met one. They were supposed to be strong but reckless. And yet this one had risked himself for her, for a stranger. Something inside her stirred, a mixture of gratitude, curiosity, and a strange sense of connection she could not explain. "Your blood," she said cautiously. It saved me." Aaron nodded. "It did. I do not know how, exactly, but it worked. You are stronger now, more stable than you were." Lyra studied him in silence. Her body was stronger, but her mind was clearer as well. She could sense things she had never noticed before: the hum of the ship's systems, the subtle pulse of life in the metal walls, and even the rhythm of Aaron's heartbeat. She realized that his blood had done more than keep her alive. It had changed her in ways she could not yet understand. "Why did you do this?" she asked again, her voice steadier this time. "Why would a human risk himself for an alien he does not know?" Aaron shrugged lightly. Because life matters. Because someone needed help. Because it was the right thing to do. His eyes held hers, calm and firm. You would have done the same for me, if the situation were reversed. Lyra thought about this. In her world, acts of selflessness were rare. People fought for survival, for power, or for honor. But here was a human who acted for no reason other than kindness. She felt a strange warmth in her chest, a trust forming in a place she did not expect. For hours, they talked quietly. Aaron explained what had happened on the battlefield, how he had been searching for survivors and stumbled upon her pod. Lyra listened carefully, absorbing every word. She had never met someone so calm in the face of danger, someone who did not panic when life itself hung by a thread. She felt drawn to him, not as a ruler to a warrior, but as two beings who understood the fragility of life. As the ship drifted through space, Lyra tested her new abilities. She moved her fingers carefully, noticing that she could sense the flow of energy within the ship. She tried to lift small objects without touching them, and to her surprise, they moved. Her eyes widened as she realized her senses were sharper. Sounds were clearer, the hum of the ship more distinct, even the subtle vibrations of space itself could be felt through the floor. Aaron watched her closely, curious but cautious. You are different now, he observed. Stronger, faster, and more aware. But be careful. You do not yet understand your limits. Lyra nodded, her mind racing. She had survived, but she had also changed. Her people had been a proud and secretive race, and no human had ever been trusted enough to touch their lives so directly. Aaron had not only saved her life but had also crossed a boundary that had never been crossed before. You saved me, she said quietly. But I do not know how to repay you. Aaron smiled faintly. Do not worry about repayment. That is not why I acted. Live. Survive. That is all I ask. Despite his words, Lyra felt a sense of responsibility. She knew her enemies were still out there, the ones who had destroyed her people and left her for dead. She also knew she could not face them alone. And yet, with Aaron by her side, the impossible felt possible. Later, as the stars moved past the ship, Lyra began to open up about her past. She spoke of her planet, her people, and the traditions that had been shattered. Aaron listened without interruption, offering quiet understanding. She had expected judgment or indifference, but he simply listened. For the first time since the attack, she felt that someone truly understood her. As night passed, the two settled into a quiet rhythm. Aaron maintained the ship, checking systems and preparing for any danger that might appear, while Lyra rested and practiced controlling the strange new strength in her body. They rarely spoke, but when they did, their words carried meaning. Each shared story, each cautious smile, each act of trust built the fragile bond between them. By the time the ship approached a safe orbit near a nearby planet, Lyra realized something important. She was no longer just a rescued princess. She was part of a partnership. Aaron had risked his life without hesitation, and in doing so, he had shown her a new kind of courage, one that relied not on power or weapons, but on choice, compassion, and trust. I owe you my life, Lyra said finally, her voice firm. You owe me nothing, Aaron replied, meeting her gaze. Just keep moving forward. That is enough. The stars reflected in her eyes as she nodded. She did not fully understand what lay ahead, but she knew that with Aaron, she would face it. The bond between them was more than gratitude. It was a connection born of survival, respect, and a shared sense of purpose. As the ship moved into the darkness of deep space, Lyra felt a quiet hope. She had been saved, but more importantly, she had found someone she could trust completely. Together, they would face the unknown, and for the first time, she felt that she might not only survive, but also reclaim what had been lost. The ship drifted silently through space, carrying Aaron and Lyra toward an uncertain future. The stars moved like distant diamonds, but the darkness between them was deep and endless. Lyra had spent the night practicing her new abilities in the small cabin, discovering that the human blood she had received did more than keep her alive. It had awakened strength and senses she had never known. She could feel the vibrations of the ship through her feet, the tiny hum of the engines, and even the faint pull of distant planets. Her hearing was sharper, allowing her to hear the softest clicks and whirs of machinery that Aaron had ignored for years. She reached out her hands and discovered she could manipulate small objects without touching them, a subtle telekinetic ability that left her amazed and cautious. Aaron noticed the changes immediately. He watched her as she lifted a small tool from the floor without moving. "You are stronger than I expected," he said, his voice calm but curious. "But you must control it. Too much focus too soon could hurt you." Lyra nodded, concentrating. She could sense his concern, but she also felt a surge of confidence. "I will learn," she said. "I need to understand this, or it will be useless when danger comes." For the next several hours, Lyra trained. She moved objects, tested her reflexes, and even sensed the flow of power through her own body. She felt alive in a way she had never experienced, every nerve and muscle alert and ready. Aaron guided her carefully, showing patience and calm that helped her focus. He had fought wars, seen death and destruction, yet he moved with a quiet steadiness that encouraged her to push her limits. As Lyra practiced, Aaron reflected on what had happened. He had given her his blood without hesitation, knowing it might change her. He had risked himself in a way few humans would have, yet he felt no regret. This was the nature of survival and trust. In the chaos of war, sometimes the greatest power was not a weapon, but the courage to help another. Lyra discovered other changes in herself as well. Her vision had improved, allowing her to see subtle movements and light shifts that were previously invisible. She noticed details in the ship's controls, the tiniest scratches on the metal walls, and the faint trail of dust drifting in zero gravity. She realized she could detect danger before it arrived, a skill that would serve her well in the days ahead. As the day passed, Aaron decided to give her a break from training. He guided the ship closer to a nearby planet that had once been a trade hub. Its orbit was empty now, abandoned after years of conflict, but it offered shelter. He landed the ship in a quiet valley surrounded by high cliffs that could hide them from scanners. The landscape was strange but beautiful, with silver rocks and strange, glowing plants that moved softly in the wind. Lyra stepped out, her senses immediately alert. The air was thin but breathable, and the planet smelled faintly of metal and minerals. She could hear the distant hum of machines buried beneath the ground, relics of the civilization that once lived here. She breathed deeply, feeling a connection to the world, to the energy of life that pulsed around her. Aaron stayed close, keeping watch. "You must be careful," he said. "Strength is powerful, but it is not enough. Awareness is what will save you." Lyra nodded. She had learned that trust was not blind. Aaron had given her life, but now she had to protect it. She focused on her senses, feeling the energy around her, sensing the wind, the movement of the land, and even the faint heartbeat of life in the rocks and plants. She realized her new strength was not just physical, but mental as well. She could perceive the world in ways that humans and her people never had before. They spent the evening exploring the valley cautiously. Aaron taught her how to move silently, how to use the terrain for advantage, and how to listen with more than ears. Lyra absorbed everything eagerly. She realized that while she had been rescued, she now had a role to play. Survival was no longer just about staying alive, it was about learning to adapt and protect herself and others. As night fell, the sky lit up with distant stars, planets, and swirling nebulae. Lyra sat beside Aaron near a small fire he had started. The warmth was comforting, and she could feel the life around her more clearly than ever. She looked at him and spoke carefully. "I feel different. Stronger. But I am also scared. What if I lose control?" Aaron shook his head. "You will not lose control. You will learn to channel it. Strength without guidance is dangerous, but strength with understanding is powerful. You are already learning faster than I expected." Her heart swelled with a mixture of pride and gratitude. She had survived, but more importantly, she had discovered a new part of herself. She was no longer helpless. She could fight, protect, and survive. And Aaron had shown her that strength was not only in the body but in courage, patience, and trust. Suddenly, her senses alerted her to something approaching. She tensed, listening carefully. A faint vibration, almost imperceptible, moved through the ground. Her eyes widened. "Something is coming," she whispered. Aaron immediately readied his weapon, scanning the valley. "Stay calm. We do not know if it is friend or foe." Lyra focused, extending her awareness. She could feel the presence moving closer, steady and deliberate. It was not human, but it was intelligent. Her body hummed with anticipation. "They are not attacking yet," she said. "They are observing. But they will act soon if we do not prepare." Aaron nodded. "Then we prepare. Stay close to me, and follow my lead. Trust your instincts and your new abilities." Together, they positioned themselves carefully, using the terrain to their advantage. Lyra could sense the presence shifting, the subtle energy of life moving through the valley. Her heart beat steadily, no longer from fear but from readiness. She realized that her transformation was not just survival, it was awakening. The night deepened around them, but Aaron and Lyra were ready. They did not know what was coming, but they knew one thing. With trust, courage, and their combined strength, they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. Lyra looked at Aaron. "I am ready," she said. Aaron nodded, placing a hand on her shoulder. "We face it together." The bond between them had grown stronger. It was no longer just a connection of rescue. It was trust, understanding, and shared purpose. Together, they would discover the limits of strength and the power of unity. And in the vast darkness of space, that bond would guide them through the dangers yet to come. The quiet of the valley did not last long. Lyra and Aaron had barely settled after their training when her senses alerted her to movement. Far across the rocky terrain, shadows shifted unnaturally. The energy she felt was deliberate, organized, and hostile. Lyra stiffened, her new awareness allowing her to sense the presence before it fully revealed itself. "Aaron," she whispered, her voice low but urgent. "They are here. Not all of them, but enough to be dangerous." Aaron's eyes narrowed. He quickly scanned the horizon with his weapon raised. "Prepare yourself. Stay close. They may be watching, waiting for us to make a mistake." Minutes passed, and the movement grew closer. Small, sleek ships emerged from behind the cliffs, their dark hulls reflecting the faint light of the twin moons above. They were agile, designed for quick strikes. Lyra's pulse quickened, but not from fear. Her mind and body were alert. She had trained with Eren, learned to focus, and now she knew her abilities could make the difference. "Count 6 ships," Eren said calmly. "They are fast, but not invincible. We will need strategy, not just strength." Lyra nodded. Her senses extended beyond sight and sound. She could feel the ship's energy signature, track their movements, and anticipate their trajectory. She realized that her body's new strength was not just physical, it was instinctive. She could react faster, plan better, and act more decisively than before. The first ship fired, sending a streak of energy toward them. Eren rolled to the side, pulling Lyra with him. She felt the vibration of the shot through her feet, reacted instinctively, and lifted a small boulder with her telekinetic ability. It spun toward the incoming energy, disrupting it just enough to protect them. Eren glanced at her, a faint smile appearing on his face. "Good thinking. Keep using that." The ships closed in, their weapons firing with precision. Eren moved steadily, covering Lyra as she tested her abilities in real combat. She lifted rocks, manipulated metal fragments, and even created a barrier using energy she could feel flowing through her body. Each attack she blocked or redirected strengthened her confidence. One of the enemy pilots shouted in their alien language. Lyra could not understand the words, but the intention was clear. They wanted her captured, not destroyed. She realized that her value was higher than they had first thought. Eren, noticing the pattern, nodded to her. "They are testing you. Use it against them. Don't just defend counter." Lyra concentrated. She focused on the largest of the incoming ships, sensing the energy flowing through its engines. With a deep breath, she extended her power outward. A metal fragment from the valley floor shot toward the ship, striking it squarely and causing a chain reaction of sparks. The ship wobbled, then veered off course. The other ships reacted quickly, circling in formation. Eren fired precise shots, disabling a smaller ship. Lyra lifted another boulder, throwing it with incredible force, damaging a second ship. They were working together seamlessly, the bond between them visible in every movement. Trust and understanding guided their actions more than any words could. But the enemy was relentless. They began to push harder, coordinating their attacks, forcing Eren and Lyra to retreat toward the cliffs. The valley offered hiding spots, but it also limited their movement. Lyra sensed the danger and spoke urgently. "We need higher ground. I can help us reach the top faster." Eren nodded. "Lead the way." Lyra focused on the rocks around them. Her strength allowed her to manipulate large boulders, creating steps and platforms that lifted them higher with every careful movement. Eren followed, providing cover from the enemy's sporadic attacks. As they climbed, she felt exhilaration and fear mix. Her abilities were strong, but she was still learning limits. Every second required concentration, every step required trust in herself and in Eren. At the top of the cliff, they paused. From this vantage point, the valley stretched below them. The enemy ships approached cautiously, not expecting resistance from such a high position. Lyra could feel their tension. She shared a glance with Eren. "We can turn this around," she said. Eren smiled faintly. "Then we will." The next phase of the chase began. Lyra manipulated large rocks, hurling them with precision at the enemy ships. Sparks flew, engines flared, and one ship crashed violently into the valley below. Aaron fired at remaining targets, combining tactics with Lyra's raw power. The enemy became confused, their formation broken. They had underestimated the human and the transformed alien princess working together. One ship managed to break through, firing a direct shot. Aaron pushed Lyra out of the path just in time. "Stay sharp," he said. "They are still dangerous." Lyra nodded, focusing her energy. She could sense the pilot's intent now, predicting movements and preparing countermeasures. Using her telekinesis, she lifted a section of cliffside, letting it fall onto the approaching ship. The pilot tried to escape, but the obstruction forced a crash landing. The remaining ships began to retreat. Aaron and Lyra were victorious for now, but neither of them relaxed fully. Lyra looked at the horizon. "They will return," she said calmly. "They know I am alive, and they will not give up." Aaron agreed. "Then we prepare. Every battle teaches us something. This one taught us their tactics, their weakness, and your growing power. Next time, we will be ready." As the stars above reflected on the valley, Aaron and Lyra took a moment to rest. She could feel her body still pulsing with energy, her senses heightened from the battle. Aaron placed a hand on her shoulder. "You did well. Better than I expected." Lyra smiled faintly. "I could not have done it without you." The bond between them had strengthened. The human warrior who gave his blood and the alien princess who gained new strength had faced danger together and survived. They understood each other now in a way that went beyond words. Their connection was not only trust but a shared sense of purpose. Night fell fully, and the valley was quiet again. The ships that had attacked them were gone, leaving only traces in the dust below. Lyra and Aaron knew that this was only the beginning. Their enemies would return, stronger and more determined. But they were ready. Together, they had discovered that courage, strategy, and newfound strength could turn the tide, even against overwhelming odds. Lyra looked at Aaron. "I feel different now. I am stronger, faster, and I can sense danger before it comes. But I know we must remain cautious." Aaron nodded. "Strength alone is not enough. Awareness and preparation matter just as much. But with your new abilities and our bond, I believe we can survive anything." The wind blew softly across the cliff, and the stars shone bright above. Lyra felt hope for the first time since her people had fallen. She knew the road ahead would be dangerous, filled with enemies and challenges, but with Aaron beside her, she also knew that she was no longer alone. Together, they would face whatever came next. The ship glided silently above the planet's surface. Lyra sat in the cabin, her hands folded, eyes focused on the shifting patterns of stars outside. She could still feel the energy coursing through her body, a constant reminder of the human blood that had saved her. Her senses were sharper, her reflexes faster, and her mind clearer. Yet with all her strength, there was still one thing she could not understand, the connection she now shared with Aaron. Aaron entered the cabin quietly, his presence calm and steady. He had been monitoring their route and checking for threats, but he sensed that Lyra needed space to think. "You are quiet," he said, taking a seat across from her. "Thinking?" Lyra nodded. "I am. I need to understand what has happened to me. Your blood, it has done more than save my life. I feel different in every way. I can sense, I can move, I can react faster than I ever have. But I do not know why or how this is possible." Aaron leaned back, studying her. "Your people are not meant to mix with human blood. That is what I know. Yet somehow, it has worked. It is possible that your body responded in a way even your kind did not expect. Survival can unlock abilities that remain hidden until they are needed. Lyra's eyes widened. Hidden abilities? Do you mean, this is part of my destiny? Aaron shrugged lightly. Perhaps. Or perhaps it is chance. But it is real, and it is yours to control. That much is certain. The air between them was heavy with unspoken questions. Lyra wanted to understand more about herself, but she also wanted to understand Aaron. How could someone act so fearlessly, so selflessly, in a universe that often rewarded violence over compassion? She had seen courage before, but never like this. I have something to tell you, she said finally, her voice steady but quiet. A secret. My people, they believed no other blood could ever save one of their own. Only our own kind could restore life. And yet, you did. You risked yourself for me, a human for an alien. That has never happened before. Aaron's expression did not change, though his eyes held a faint warmth. I do not act because of rules or tradition. I act because it is right. Life is life, no matter who it belongs to. If I had not helped you, you would have died. That is enough reason for me. Lyra felt a mixture of awe and disbelief. She had expected surprise, maybe fear, maybe even anger at Aaron's actions. Instead, he offered calm reasoning and trust. She realized that the human who had saved her was not only brave but wise in ways her people had never been. You have given me life, she said softly. But you have also changed my world. My people, they would never have believed this possible. They would have considered it impossible, unnatural. Aaron shook his head. Nature has its rules, but survival does not always follow them. What matters is what comes next, not what has always been. For a long moment, they sat in silence. Lyra thought about the battles they had faced, the enemies that had pursued her, and the strange powers that now flowed through her veins. She realized that her life was no longer only hers to protect. With Aaron, she had a partner, someone who would fight beside her and guide her through dangers she could not yet fully imagine. I feel stronger than I ever have, Lyra admitted. But I also feel responsibility. My enemies know I am alive. They will return, and they will try again. If I cannot control my strength, I will be a danger to myself and others. Aaron nodded. And that is why we train, why we plan. Strength without control is useless. But you are learning quickly, faster than I expected. We will face the next challenge together, as equals. Lyra's mind wandered to her past, to the world she had lost. She thought of the people she had loved, the traditions of her planet, and the lessons her family had taught her. Yet all of that now seemed distant compared to the reality of her survival and her new connection with Aaron. She realized that while she had been saved, she had also been given a chance to grow, to discover abilities and courage she never knew existed. You have changed more than my body, she said finally. You have changed my mind, my view of life. My people saw humans as unpredictable, often reckless. But you are different. You act with thought, with courage, and with care. I do not know why, but I trust you. Aaron allowed a small smile. Trust is earned, and it can be shared. You have earned mine, and I trust you with what comes next. Together, we are stronger than we are apart. Outside, the stars shifted, and the quiet of space surrounded them. Lyra felt a sense of peace she had not known since the fall of her planet. Her body was strong, her mind alert, and her bond with Aaron gave her courage. She realized that this was the beginning, not only of her new life but of something greater. Suddenly, a soft vibration ran through the ship. Lyra tensed, sensing a subtle disturbance in the energy outside. "Aaron," she said, "someone is approaching. I can feel it. They are cautious, but they are near." Aaron moved quickly to the controls, scanning the space around them. His eyes narrowed. "They are scouts," he said. "Not the full force yet, but they are tracking us. We need to be ready. You have strength now, and I have experience. Together, we will handle this." Lyra nodded. She could feel the energy of the approaching ships, their engines humming softly, their movements deliberate. Her senses guided her to the perfect vantage point. She could detect their weaknesses, the rhythm of their engines, and the patterns of their weapons. "Let me try something," she said. "I think I can disrupt their approach." Aaron glanced at her, his expression calm. "Do it. I will cover you. Trust your instincts." She focused, channeling the energy flowing through her body. Her hands moved with precision, manipulating the environment outside. She sent subtle waves of force toward the approaching ships, disrupting their navigation systems just enough to force them off course. Sparks flew from their hulls, and one scout ship spun uncontrollably before retreating. Aaron watched, impressed. "You are learning fast," he said. "This is only the beginning, Lyra. Your potential is greater than either of us imagined." She felt a surge of pride, but also humility. Her strength was powerful, yet she knew she had much to learn. Her bond with Aaron had taught her that courage and wisdom were as important as raw power. Together, they had changed the outcome of the encounter without unnecessary violence. Lyra looked at him, her eyes bright. "I understand now. Your blood saved me, but your guidance gave me strength beyond survival. I am not alone, and I will not face what comes next alone." Aaron nodded. "We face it together, Lyra. Whatever comes, we are stronger united. You have unlocked abilities you never knew existed, and I will help you master them. That is my promise." As the stars shifted outside, Lyra realized that the secret she had carried, the impossibility of survival through human blood, was no longer a mystery. It was a new truth, a bridge between two worlds. She had been given life, strength, and a chance to redefine what was possible. And with Aaron at her side, she knew she could face any challenge that awaited them. The quiet returned to the ship, but it was different now. It was filled with possibility, hope, and determination. Lyra sat back, feeling the energy flowing through her, and for the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to smile. The secret was revealed, and it had given her more than she had ever imagined. Together, they would continue, ready to face the universe and all the dangers it held, knowing that their bond, their courage, and their strength could overcome anything. The sun rose over the distant mountains of the planet, casting long shadows across the valley where Aaron and Lyra had taken shelter. The events of the previous days weighed on them both, but neither rested. Their enemies were still out there, tracking Lyra and seeking to capture or destroy her. Yet, despite the danger, a new determination had grown inside them. They were no longer just survivors. They were becoming a force that could inspire others. Lyra trained at the edge of the cliff, lifting massive stones and moving them with precision. Each motion was measured, guided by the focus Aaron had taught her. She felt stronger with every passing hour, her senses sharper and more controlled. Her connection with the human who had saved her was no longer just trust, it had grown into understanding and teamwork. Aaron watched her from a distance, carefully observing. He knew that her abilities were still evolving and that control was just as important as strength. Remember, he called to her, power without awareness can be dangerous. Focus on the environment and your instincts. Lyra nodded without looking at him. She could sense the wind shifting, the vibrations of distant ground, and the faint energy of life flowing around her. Each sense was a tool, each movement a step closer to mastery. She was no longer the fragile princess who had drifted in a broken pod. She was a warrior in her own right, a being who could face threats with confidence. Suddenly, her senses picked up movement in the valley below. It was not the enemy ships they had faced before but smaller life forms, survivors who had been hiding in the shadows. They were wary, but Lyra could feel their fear and desperation. She turned to Aaron, excitement and caution in her voice. There are others here. They need help, but they are scared. Aaron nodded. Then we show them why trust matters. Lead them, but stay alert. Some may hesitate, and some may run. Be ready for both. Lyra descended carefully to meet the survivors. Her presence was commanding, but her demeanor was calm. She spoke to them in simple words, assuring them that she meant no harm. Slowly, the survivors approached, drawn by her confidence and the quiet strength she exuded. They were humans, aliens, and hybrids, all seeking refuge from the chaos that had overtaken the galaxy. One of the survivors, a tall human named Rena, stepped forward. We heard rumors of a human helping an alien princess. Is that true? She asked, her voice trembling slightly. Lyra nodded. It is true. He saved my life. We are not enemies here. We are allies. Aaron gave a small smile. Trust is built on actions, not words. I have acted, and so has Lyra. We will protect you if you work with us. The survivors looked at one another, uncertainty in their eyes, but slowly they nodded. They began to follow Aaron and Lyra, forming a small group united by hope. Lyra could feel their hesitation melting as they observed her abilities. Rocks moved with her will, metal fragments hovered in the air, and energy seemed to flow from her body in a subtle but undeniable way. The survivors realized they were in the presence of someone extraordinary, someone who could protect them. As the group moved to a safer location, Aaron spoke to Lyra quietly. They will test you. Not because they doubt you, but because trust is earned. Show them your strength and your care, not your power alone. Lyra understood. She approached the group, speaking with calm authority. You are safe with us. I will not allow harm to come to you. Together, we can survive and fight back. Trust yourself, trust each other, and trust us. Slowly, the survivors began to relax. They shared stories of loss and survival, their voices growing stronger as they realized they were no longer alone. Lyra listened, absorbing every word, and felt a sense of purpose she had never known. Her journey was no longer just about survival, it was about leadership, hope, and guiding those who had been abandoned. Aaron observed silently, proud of her growth. The bond between them had strengthened through every battle and every challenge. He knew that together they could achieve what seemed impossible. You are more than just powerful, he said quietly. You inspire. That is something even I cannot teach. As night fell, the group set up a temporary camp among the cliffs. Fires burned, casting shadows across the rocks, and the survivors began to plan for the future. Aaron and Lyra led discussions, organizing patrols, defense positions, and supply gathering. Lyra used her abilities to sense danger and guide the group safely. Every movement, every decision, strengthened the group's trust in her and Aaron. The next morning, scouts returned with news. Enemy forces were gathering in the region, larger and more organized than before. Lyra and Aaron exchanged a look. The time for preparation had come. The small band of survivors had to be ready, and they had to act decisively. "We will not wait for them to strike," Aaron said firmly. "We will take the fight to them when the time is right. Strength alone will not win this, but strategy, unity, and courage will." Lyra nodded. She felt the energy within her, ready to protect her people and her allies. "We can do this," she said. "I will not allow anyone to be harmed while I am here. Together, we are stronger than they think." Over the next days, Aaron and Lyra trained the group, combining their strengths with the survivors' skills. They practiced coordinated attacks, emergency maneuvers, and defensive strategies. Lyra's abilities became central to the group's planning. Her telekinesis and heightened senses allowed them to anticipate enemy movements and avoid traps. Aaron's experience and leadership guided them with precision. The group grew confident. They realized that the human who had saved an alien princess and the alien princess who had gained new strength were not only allies, they were symbols. Their courage inspired hope in others who had once given up. Survivors from distant regions began to rally, drawn by the stories of the human and the princess who had survived against impossible odds. One evening, as the sun set behind the mountains, Lyra looked out over the camp. The survivors were moving with purpose, their fear replaced by determination. She felt the energy of the group, a shared heartbeat of hope and strength. Aaron stood beside her, watching silently. "You have changed more than just yourself," he said quietly. "You have changed everyone here. They see strength and courage, and they follow it willingly." Lyra smiled faintly. "We all have a role to play. They follow because they have hope, and hope is stronger than any fear." The night deepened, but Lyra felt ready. Their enemies would return, but the small group of survivors was no longer powerless. They had training, leadership, and newfound confidence. Most importantly, they had each other. As the stars shone above, Lyra realized that the turning tide had begun. The human who had given blood and the alien princess who had awakened new strengths had sparked a movement. They were no longer alone, and their courage would ripple across the galaxy. Aaron placed a hand on her shoulder. "Tomorrow we fight, but tonight we rest. We face them together, and together we will prevail." Lyra nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility and the fire of determination. She had been rescued once, but now she was a leader, a protector, and a symbol of hope. The turning tide had begun, and nothing would stop them. The battlefield was finally quiet. Smoke no longer rose from the broken ground, and the sound of weapons had faded into memory. Only the cold wind moved across the land. Ryan stood beside the alien princess, his armor cracked and stained, but his spirit steady. He had fought against impossible odds, yet he was still standing. The princess breathed slowly, her strength returning. Her eyes, bright and clear, now carried more than simple gratitude. They carried a new fire. She touched the wound on her side, where moments ago life had been slipping away. Now, thanks to the human warrior, she was alive, stronger than she had ever felt before. She looked at Ryan and said softly, "Your blood is now part of me. It saved me when nothing else could. But more than that, it awakened something long hidden. I feel power inside me, and I feel your courage flowing with it." Ryan shook his head. I only did what anyone should do. You needed help. I could not walk away and let you die. Her eyes studied him carefully. Many would have left me. You were my enemy. Yet you risked everything. That choice is not normal. That choice is not something my people ever expected from a human. Ryan gave a small smile. Then maybe your people do not know us yet. Maybe they will now. The princess stood taller, as if his words gave her strength. She lifted her broken crown from the ground and placed it upon her head. Even damaged, it marked her as heir to her people. She said in a firm voice, "When I return, I will tell my people the truth. I will tell them that a human gave me life. That a human shared blood with me. That a human fought beside me when all hope was gone." Ryan remained quiet, watching her. He was a soldier, not a leader. Yet in this moment, he knew their actions had created something greater than both of them. The princess stepped forward and called out to the few surviving soldiers of her guard who had returned after the battle. They looked at Ryan with caution, unsure of what to think. To them, humans had always been seen as outsiders, dangerous and untrustworthy. But their princess raised her hand and spoke with authority. "This human warrior saved me. Without him, I would have fallen. Without him, we would have no future. His blood runs with mine now, and together we defeated those who tried to end us. From this day forward, no one in my kingdom will call humans enemies. From this day forward, we call them allies." Her soldiers bowed their heads, accepting her words. None dared question her, for they had seen her rise from the edge of death with power that shook the battlefield. They had seen the impossible with their own eyes. Ryan felt uncomfortable with such honor, but he did not speak against it. He knew this moment was not about him alone. It was about two peoples who had been apart for too long. As the princess's guards prepared a signal for rescue ships, the princess turned back to Ryan. "You may not understand what you have done," she said. "You did more than save me. You changed history. In the old songs of my people, there are stories of unity between worlds. Those were thought to be only myths. But today, you made it real." Ryan simply nodded. "If unity means fewer battles like this, then I am glad." The wind carried their words into the silent air. Soon, a great ship descended from the clouds, its silver hull shining in the weak light. The princess's people rushed forward to welcome her. They gasped when they saw her alive and stronger than before. They bowed deeply, and their voices rose in chants of her name. She lifted her hand, silencing them. Then she pointed to Ryan. "Remember his face," she declared. "Remember what he gave. Without him, your princess would not be here. Without him, our kingdom would have fallen. From this day, humans are not strangers. They are kin." The crowd looked at Ryan with new eyes. Where once there might have been suspicion, now there was awe. They had not only their princess's word but also the proof of her strength, born from his sacrifice. Ryan felt their gaze and shifted uneasily, but the princess smiled. "Do not be uneasy, warrior. You have earned their respect, and far more. You have earned a place in our history." As the ship lifted them into the sky, the princess stood beside him. Together, they looked down at the ruined battlefield below, where so much had been lost but where something new had also begun. She whispered, almost to herself, "This is not the end. This is the beginning of something greater than both our worlds." Ryan did not answer with words. He simply stood with her, silent but steady. He knew she was right. The bond of blood they now shared was not just about survival. It was about trust. It was about hope. When the ship reached the stars, the princess turned to her people once more and said loudly, "What happened here will never be forgotten. The day will come when our children speak of this bond. The day will come when they sing of the human warrior who gave life to a princess, and of the alliance that grew from it." This is the story that begins today. The hall filled with cheers, and the sound echoed across the great ship. Ryan stood quietly among them, a simple warrior who had done what he thought was right. He had not planned to become part of legend, but sometimes legends are born not from power or crowns, but from simple acts of courage and kindness.